All right, family, it's your brother Asad.
Hi, and I'm Adrian.
And we are back again with another quick video. But before we get started, please hit that like, comment, and subscribe, or like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notifications bell so that you'll be notified when we drop new videos. And I want to say again, I told you I would never do a video without thanking our South African family for all of the love that we have received and all of the love you guys are showing this channel. Again, just warms our heart. It's overwhelming. We thank you for your continued support. Y'all off the chain. In my book, can't nobody tell me nothing bad about no South African.
Indeed.
But I did want to say this. Um, since this channel has kind of picked up with activity, I have received numerous emails. I talk about all the emails I get from South Africans, but I just have to be very honest. I receive numerous emails from African Americans who are so interested in coming to South Africa, and many who have already visited and who are telling me, hey, Doc Assad, we're moving to South Africa too. Now, I want to be clear. These are not like some run-of-the-mill, regular black folks. These ain't regular black people. No, 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 no. These are doctors, engineers, business owners who are like, who you would assume that they're living pretty well in the United States.
Yeah.
They would say, if you were to look at their life, you would say that these are successful individuals. However, they're saying we want to choose South Africa. We are choosing South Africa. We need to get out of the United States, and South Africa is the place that we want to go. Now, I don't know if some of them are doing it in terms of, we obviously we identify as Pan-Africanists. If there was a question in the comments, so obviously we identify as Pan-Africanists. So I don't know if that's the motivation or if they just fell in love with South Africa. But I have had numerous emails. I said that to say, South African family, I know most of you are very proud. The vast majority are very proud. And I know that during the African American dialogue, there was some critiques of the nation. However, I'm telling you, it must take an outsider's perspective to really see the gold mine, and not the gold mine in terms of money and wealth.
Yeah.
I mean, the gold mine that is South Africa that you guys are sitting on. So love and embrace your nation. It is, again, the only world-class, first-class, black-led nation on planet Earth, arguably. Now, there's some people who will jump in here and claim all kind of other stuff.
Right.
But, I believe I can make a great argument for that statement. So I just wanted to say that and buck y'all up right quick. But anyway, family, so what have we been doing? So yesterday was like, what did we do yesterday? You remember?
We didn't do much. It wasn't a busy day yesterday. It was very relaxing, actually.
Right. All we did was eat.
Yeah.
Now, when I leave here and I'm 20 pounds extra, man, I'm leave here 20 pounds heavier, man. So we do want to make this a quick video talking about apartheid. So we know, so disclaimer and warning, right? We know that apartheid is a very sensitive subject, and we are not scholars on apartheid, not even lightweight historians on apartheid. We just know it happened, and we know that it affected. Yeah, we need to learn more and know that it affected a lot of black people and colored people, and it wasn't good. Others. It was just another form. Yeah, you wouldn't want to leave out anybody.
Right? All of you that felt like you suffered under apartheid, we want to
we'll make sure that you two were oppressed.
Right.
However, we know that it was a system of white supremacy and racism. And now we are familiar with that. Systems of white supremacy and racism. So there was a book by Michelle Alexander in the United States that was called The New Jim Crow. Now, the New Jim Crow looked at really...
Wait, before you go to the new, what is Jim Crow?
What is the old Jim Crow?
Right.
Well,
You
let's
can't
talk
assume
about the
people know
old
what
Jim
Jim
Crow.
Crow is.
Well, let's give a real
Just
detailed
real quick.
explanation. All right. So, where does the terminology Jim Crow come from? Jim Crow was a minstrel show character. If you don't know what minstrel shows are, they actually have some in Cape Town. But a minstrel show was a racist um, entertainment, stage entertainment, sometimes film entertainment, where they would, dress in blackface, and white people would make fun of black people, right? And
Exaggerate how we
exaggerate
talked, how we looked.
and made us just look ignorant, And then keep in mind that motion picture and media are nothing but propaganda, and so that propaganda was propagandized or propagated um, throughout the nation to make black people appear ignorant. It's a funny thing. I'm going to get into the definition of Jim Crow, but y'all know I'm always sidebar. It's a funny thing that the image of black men in antebellum United States, pre-Civil War United States, was that black men were docile, that they were nice, that they were grandfatherly figures, right? Never the fact that we were lazy or violent, right? That image of black men became popularized through the media after the end of slavery, when white Americans chose through their hatred and vindictiveness to uh, repaint the black man in particular, right, as a violent person, right? So they had bully coons is what they were called, and then as a lazy person. So you would see all of these paintings, and not paintings, but like postage stamps and postcards with lazy black men just sitting around eating watermelon. Yeah.
Kind of stuff.
So that created this whole image of black men, the people who literally worked to build the nation. The hardest workers in the nation were then portrayed as being lazy, right? The people who were victims of lynching and brutal beatings and murder, and they would tie black men to horses and pull the horse one way and the black man the other way and rip his body apart. We were portrayed as being violent. Isn't that just the most curious thing? It's the most curious thing. So, Jim Crow was a system of racial segregation, and Jim Crow, the name itself, was a character from one of the minstrel shows. But the system of racial segregation, very similar to the system of racial segregation here in the United States, apartheid. It was,
In South Africa.
I'm sorry, in South Africa. It was a system of laws, though. And apartheid was a system of laws that kept black people segregated to one not only area of town, but segregated to one portion of life, right? Wealth was not created. Attendance to the best universities or the best schools were denied. Jobs were reserved for jobs of any decent economic means were reserved for white Americans.
And what's her name would say, who wrote the book Caste, it formulated us as a permanent bottom class.
Permanent bottom, Isabel Wilkerson.
Yes.
Permanent bottom class, bottom caste, right? So that lasted really. Did Jim Crow ever end? Is the question. Profound question, because still the majority of black people in the United States still attend majority black schools. Yeah. The majority of black people in the United States still live in majority black neighborhoods. Yeah. So
always went to black churches.
Oh, always. I believe it was Malcolm who said the most segregated hour in the United States is 12 noon on Sunday. Right? We don't go to integrated churches. There are, so let's, before someone jumps in the comments, there are integrated churches, there are integrated schools, there are integrated neighborhoods. But we speak of majority, right? We speak of majority, we speak of numeric majority, proportions, right? So and that was Jim Crow. It was legalized racial segregation, much like apartheid. And I'm sure that most South Africans were familiar with that, but just for those who were not, that's what it was. So
New Jim Crow.
So the New Jim Crow was a book by Michelle Alexander, which really addressed more so um, how the face of Jim Crow laws have now segregated black people into prisons,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have some states in the in the United States that have a super majority black neighborhood. That black neighborhood just happens to be the prison, right?
Mm.
So there's no other black neighborhoods, majority black neighborhoods, but the prison population counted as a neighborhood is the super majority black population in that state,
Mm.
right? So they have now again continued to weaponize the law against black people, right? So with that being said, I found it interesting that there was a book, and many people recommended this book to us called The New Apartheid, right?
Mm-hmm.
The New Apartheid by Dr. Sizwe
Mpofu
and
Walsh.
Pofu Walsh, right? And he is an Oxford scholar, PhD, young brother though.
Mm-hmm.
Young brother,
Yeah.
yeah. And I heard he used to be a rapper. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Please correct me if I am. But somebody's told me he was in a group with AKA. That makes sense? I don't know, make no sense.
I gotta see. I
That
gotta
don't
see
make no
it.
sense. But it might be true. You
It
never know
appears
what happened.
strange, but you never know.
They might have been playing with me. But so we want to talk very briefly about this book. Again, we want to be very sensitive to the subject of apartheid.
Right.
Um, and again, say that we're not scholars of apartheid. We're just people who happen to pick up this book. And it was recommended to us. I've also had some people say, well, no, that's not a good book. And it had some critiques of the book.
Of course.
But that's what scholarly works are supposed to do,
Right.
right? That, every scholarly work is going to have a further study, the limitations of the study,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you're writing your dissertations, so, right? So scholarly works are not meant to be, what does it call it, all encompassing and exhaustive. They're meant to, again, spark questions,
Right.
give a good snapshot, and then
It's an
allow
analysis.
this analysis, right?
One person's analysis.
And then allow other people to further the study,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people are supposed to do. So I just want to read a passage that really stuck out, or struck me, however I want to say that, um, about the new apartheid. From the new apartheid, again, he says, as ideology, apartheid was a set of beliefs and creeds which combined in a particular Africana centric white supremacist worldview. This mingled with an Anglo Saxon white supremacist foundation built in the colonial period. Like other ideologies of racial superiority of the period in Britain, Australia, Germany, and the United States, apartheid was consumed with white racial purity and total dominance. Unlike these ideologies, however, apartheid was an ideology of minority supremacy. In this way, apartheid balanced white supremacy against the numerical supremacy of the black majority.
Mm.
Mm. You know how we always talking about South Africa? We want to, part of the reason why living in the majority. So that was interesting. How, I mean, I guess we understood that, but it's interesting that he pointed that out. What are your thoughts on that?
I've never thought about it like that before.
Mm.
And I would, it's really interesting to think about how the systems are different based on the minority or the population that you're attempting to control and dominate.
Right.
So it is different in the United States. We were a minority.
Mm-hmm.
So the control looked different than here.
Right.
And I imagine there's a lot more like psychological separation, disunification of people in order to dominate them in that way.
To dominate a majority, it's easy. It's easy to dominate a minority.
Right.
Right. You're outnumbered. There's only 40 million black Americans in the United States. There's 280 million white Americans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that they all have, and many of them have become very progressive and allies of the black community. But I just saw a World Star video of Kyle Rittenhouse,
Mm-hmm.
the guy who killed those two Black Lives Matter protesters,
Mm-hmm.
and he was acquitted. Well, he had maybe 30,000 people come out to see him at some, I think it was some evangelical thing, and they were all screaming his name, Kyle, Kyle, Kyle. He has his own theme song now, so let's not be confused or misled to believe that that there's still a significant number, if not the majority, of white Americans who still hold on to the ideas of racial supremacy and black inferiority. So I think, with that being said, I think that one of the differences that happens when you are, as a matter of fact, let's. I believe he says here that apartheid was deracialized in the narrow sense. Some black South Africans can now participate in the spoils, though most still experience the vast disproportion of its evils. Apartheid used racial identity to include and to exclude. The new apartheid still excludes by race, but no longer strictly includes by race. Black enmeshment in the system of privilege is a key feature of the new apartheid. This enmeshment serves two functions. It distracts from racialized exclusions and it incentivizes black compliance. So I want to stop there and kind of go back to the thing and maybe bring them both together. What happens for black Americans at the end of Jim Crow is that we're still excluded.
Right.
Even with the few numbers of black people that are held up as an example of equality in the United States, the overwhelming masses of black people are excluded from like political power, economic power, except in very small pockets around the nation. And so you have one black president, a handful of black senators. I mean, historically, like literally a handful, maybe four, five. Don't quote me on that. It may be more, but I really think it's only 4 or 5 black people who've actually been in the Senate. Maybe more again. But so, which what I'm saying is that being the minority in a racialized environment meant that the struggle for inclusion was that much more difficult. And not to say that I'm not trying to do a comparison and contrasting. I'm saying that the struggle for inclusion was very difficult for Black Americans because white Americans were still in the majority. So as he points out here, that some, and he uses some, and he emphasizes some in italics, that some Black South Africans have been able to, gain acceptance, gain wealth, gain opportunity. But then he says that the majority are still, affected by the ills, excluded in different ways. So what do you think about that?
I think it's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's heavy because there's so many similarities. When you read that, so much pops up in your mind about what we experience in the United States. When I think about the few Black people that are given access, I think about a few things. So one is the signaling that has to be done to make white folks comfortable in opening that door to give you that access. That's one thing.
Right.
Yes, a lot of times that's something that happens. You grow up in it. You're trained up in their schools. You learn how to socialize with them. They become more comfortable with you. They know you're not a radical. You're not going to do these things, so they're more comfortable with you access. So that's one thing that pops up in my mind. The second thing that pops up in my mind is how we've seen Black political leadership come in. And when you think about the civil rights movement, Black folks, we all have sort of one thing we were trying to achieve. We were trying to
give us free.
Give us free, right? But that inclusion, what did he say? It incentivizes Black compliance.
Yeah.
When you are given access to the privileges and the spoils, so to speak, you're living a good life and you're living in their nice communities, gated communities, you now have a stake in the system. You don't want to see the system torn down.
This plantation ain't that bad.
It's beautiful here.
It's all right.
And they smile at me. They're nice.
I got
and my kids
massa
go to school
good.
now. So now you're tied up in the system too. You don't want to see it dismantled.
Right.
For what?
It's the same thing that Malcolm talked about with the house Negro and the field Negro. He said the house Negro was, lives a little bit better. He lives in the house either in the attic or down in the basement, and master may feed him a little more. He's close to his master, and the field Negro will go to the house Negro and say, "Man, we got to get away from him. We got to get out of here." He said, "No, the house Negro, man, what is better than what we have here, boy? Where you want to go?" But you brought up something interesting that I wanted to touch on, and I think you mentioned, I guess I forgot. I forgot. All right. So this is another, and this is 20 minutes. We don't want to hold him too long. So another thing, he mentions this, and I just want to get your thoughts. He said, late apartheid economic reforms divested the South African state of considerable economic. This is what I wanted to say. We'll get back to that. You mentioned having to, I guess, signaling be palatable to white people, right? As a big old black man, it's very hard to do that. So that's why I live in New Orleans, because I can't live in any other city. I can't live in a city that is not majority black. And it's not about being racist. It's about the fact that I can't do that type of signaling, right? I have all of the credentials, but I can't make myself small, right? I cannot shrink myself to fit into your low expectations or to fit into your box or to fit into any of your expectations to make you feel comfortable. If you scared because I'm big and black, be scared. I'm not finna make you feel comfortable just because you have all of these embedded, internalized white supremacy and ideas about who black men are and this, that, and the third. So I stay in a black city where that really doesn't come into play too much, right? The white people that choose to live in New Orleans are unique.
They are.
They're unique. At least they may be as racist as they come. Believe that, right? At the same time, they are living in a where they are a numeric minority, so they have to know something about dealing with black people. I wanted to say that anyway. So late apartheid economic reforms divested the South African state of considerable economic power. Before the 1980s, South Africa's public sector was proportionally larger than most economies outside of the Soviet bloc. However, as the NP's grip weakened, an ambitious project to reduce the state's economic power commenced. By the time the ANC took power in the mid 1990s, the state had shrunk. Though the ANC had gained state power, the state itself had lost power. Boy, it's like holding up a mirror.
Isn't it?
Right? What that Justin Timberlake song say? The mirror looking back at me. The mirror pain in my heart.
It just resonates.
It's just like holding up a mirror. When in the United States in the late 70s, black people begin to gain some political power in the cities, right? Black people were moving to cities. I guess part of the Great Migration, as well as the migration from rural areas into urban areas. So places like New Orleans elected black mayors. Places like Atlanta elected Maynard Jackson, Andrew Young, who's the mayor of Atlanta, but he's from New Orleans. Places like Chicago and maybe Detroit and DC. And various places where they had these super majorities of black people begin to elect, black leadership. And what does that leadership inherit? Economically defunct system.
Yep.
All of the white money and capital moves out to the suburbs. So then you have a pristine city at one time turn into ghettos and slums because there's no economic structure there. And I think that is what Dr. Walsh is saying happened. The state begins to lose power and the money begins to be privatized and moves out and still remains in the hands of the white power class, right? The white economic power class. So that's very much similar to what happened in the United States and the cities.
That's often the trade-off, right? It's this illusion of well, we'll give you some political power. But what is political power without wealth?
Without
Without
economic
money?
power,
And they know
right?
that.
Right.
Start pulling those purse strings, and next thing you know, that's the shadow government.
That's a shadow
Still
government.
running things.
Exactly. Exactly. So then our black leadership becomes beholden to the white power structure.
Right.
So we're like, man, we had all these black mayors in the city of New Orleans. Why are we still living in poverty? Why the projects look like the projects? Why we have all these potholes? And then we go into the white community and they look like they're living in Beverly Hills. Mm-hmm. Why? Because the black politician can no longer, even though he may run and give you that lip service, brother, I'm on your side. Fight the power. Keep hope alive.
Red light cameras.
Yeah. Oh. And soon as they get into office, they have to be beholden to the white power structure. So you see that white supremacy is not about that the plantation is portable, and that white supremacy can be ventriloquized through black people, and they put a black face in power, and he will begin to speak white supremacy to you, but you believe that you are in a place of power and position just because he looks like you. Yet he is doing everything that the white power structure needs him to do to maintain their power. Interesting stuff. I suggest you guys, if you haven't, pick up the book, The New Apartheid. We
didn't touch
half of it, not a third of it.
Right,
but we'll be here for the next 2-3 hours. Right. So, any closing comments, questions, concerns?
No, other than pick up the book and read it.
Pick up the book and read it. And man, we thank you guys for watching. And we'll be back. I think we have, man, listen, our schedule is filling up every time we look around. Every time we look around, we're meeting with different people. Listen, I just told y'all there's African Americans coming in today who will also be staying in Rosebank. I don't know them. They just reached out to me in the email and was like, hey, we're coming there too. And I was like, well, holler at me when you get here. You know, there's another group coming in on the 29th, I think they said. I mean, listen, I don't know who put the word out, if it was an email or something like that, but somebody told black Americans about South Africa, and they told the right black Americans too. The one was the one the ones with a little money. You know, one with a little money and a little education. Yeah, those smart Negroes went to white schools and everything. Yeah, they the ones that's interested in coming to South Africa. The hood ain't coming. The hood be like, man, we gotta stay up. So, family, thank y'all. If you watched to the end of this video, you a soldier. Holla back.